Millennials. And as I mentioned, this hour, we're going to talk, in the first half hour, we're going to talk to Fairfax County Economic Development Authority President and CEO, Victor Hoskins.
Pleasure to be here.
Great. So, Victor, I just wanted to read a little bit of your bio because I think it's pretty impressive. During your career, you've created nearly 375,000 jobs. You were previously the Director of Economic Development for Arlington County, and you helped bring Amazon's HQ to Northern Virginia. There was also the Deputy Mayor of Planning and Economic Development for Washington, D.C., and also helped bring together major sites in DC, the renovation of the Wharf area. So Victor, we just went through an inauguration, a transfer of power. Obviously that impacts Washington, DC. How does that also impact Northern Virginia in general?
Well, it's interesting. Well, first of all, thank you for having me today. Real estate is something that I've been around so much of my career that I absolutely love the subject, no matter what direction. And this is a particularly unique moment. When there's a transfer of power in this region, strangely enough, before Clinton, used to have a departure of an entire entourage and an influx of a new group. But what has happened since Clinton is you have a group of people that actually come and stay, and then you have another group of people come in. So there's usually a real warm, heated market. And this year it was particularly enhanced, and I'm talking residential. It's been enhanced by by COVID. Because really suburban outlying areas have been a little bit more attractive than urban inner ring areas. So really Northern Virginia has benefited greatly. As a matter of fact, in August and September, sales were up 37%. So it's been a red hot market.
Yeah, we've definitely noticed that the residential market really all across the country has just been really incredibly heated. And it looks like 2021 is going to continue that trend.
But now I can contrast that with the commercial market, which has not been so good. As a matter of fact, it's interesting. 2020 for us was a pretty amazing year. 2020 calendar for us was a pretty amazing year, but it was only because of the pipeline that came out of 2019. We had transactions like the Microsoft deal, which was over 400,000 square feet, and then they added another 45,000 square feet, so it almost ended up to like 450,000 square feet of research and development. That kind of deal, along with the re-signing of Volkswagen, which was almost a 200,000 square foot deal, and they signed a 20-year lease. They did all of this during COVID, and that was the larger companies. But on the side of the smaller companies, 50,000 square feet and below, it really has been really a mixed bag. Like a lot of companies have given back space, put sublease space back on the market. So it's really been a tale of two markets. The residential market doing extraordinarily well, commercial market, not so much.
Well, let's talk about that because I think it's really interesting. You mentioned those two huge deals that were already in progress. Do you see that pipeline picking up anytime soon, or do you think that it's still going to take a long time, as we roll out vaccines and things like that for the economy to kind of return to normal a little bit?
Yeah, we've been looking at we look at data from our region, we look at data from the nation, and then we look at global data to kind of track what we expect. We are one of the most moderately impacted markets in the country. Our commercial side is down about 37%, about 34 to 37%, depending on how you count it. And that's in Northern Virginia and actually the greater DC region. Well, you have markets like San Francisco that are down 71%. And that's in net absorption. So I'm talking net absorption. I'm not talking about the markets collapsing. I'm just saying it's not growing. This is the non-growth of the market. So that is really something that we believe is going to take a couple of years to shake out. We've spoken to some really forward-thinking economists from universities and from the real estate sector, and they all are basically saying, look, 2020 pipeline, don't be surprised, it's going to be down. That means that if it's down, then that's 2021 is going to be soft. So you lose the pipeline in 2020, so you don't have those deals in 2021. So all of those deals roll to 2022, and you get the impact of the additional deals that are coming on the market in 2022. So this year, 2021, is not going to be such a great year during the first half. We're expecting it to pick up momentum around September as you hit that corner in the fall, and then kind of push toward December. And then we expect a pretty robust market, really first quarter, second quarter next year, and going in throughout that whole year. And this has been, a lot of the economists and really forecasters from like UCLA's Anderson Business School and people like Enrico Moretti, they've been very clear that this is the direction, the market, and it's just going to be an adjustment. They're kind of looking at it in three phases. The first phase really started in March with COVID till really this April, this spring, as vaccinations go out. Then there's going to be about a year and a half of vaccination adjustment, and then about 2 years moving toward normalcy. So we'll get back to somewhat normal, and I can get into more details on that, but that's what they're saying right now.
Victor, thanks for joining us again. And I wanted to ask, so I don't want to go down a political rabbit hole, but we have a different administration, and I'm wondering, in your conversations with developers or business people, and specifically about Northern Virginia and the DC market, is there any kind of shift in sentiment, or do you think all the momentum that was in place last year, whatever that momentum might have been, is that just continuing, or have you seen any shifts based on the change in the administration?
So I don't think there's really been a shift in the momentum. As a matter of fact, really COVID is the thing that's dominating the momentum. And when I say momentum, I'm speaking of actual transactions, because that we have to hit so many square feet a year. We have to do about 2 million square feet a year and about 9,000 jobs. That's our floor. Last year we did 2.4 million in square footage, and we did about 11 million jobs. So we were up, 18, 15%. So we did really well last year, 20% on the square footage side, about 15, 16% on the job side. This year, we don't expect that. Actually, we expect to be down. And that movement has less to do with politics and has more to do with what's going on with COVID. COVID is keeping us out of the offices. It's changing our attitude of how we want to approach the offices. It is really it's the barrier. It's the thing that's in the way of momentum really busting loose. So when I heard the new president say 100 million vaccines in 100 days, that kind of target is extraordinarily encouraging to the market. And now they're talking maybe even more, maybe 150. And I'm hoping I'm one of those vaccinated people, because we look outside of our market as well as in our market for deals. So retention is 66% of our business, but there's another 33%, another third that we go and we call it hunting. That's the Amazon deals, the Lidl deals, the headquarters deals. But most of our deals are really local. But that sentiment is really not related to politics. It's actually related to this pathogen that's out there, this COVID-19. Once that moves out of the way, you're going to see a tremendous release and pent-up demand. I have my people looking at July 1 on as really the gun going off and saying, go chase the business. So, and I'm not the only one that's thinking that way. We're figuring 2/3 of the people will be vaccinated by the middle of summer, end of summer, and that's a perfect time for my people to get out there and travel.
Interesting. So I wanted to ask you a little bit too about how you supported some of the smaller businesses during the pandemic, because I know that that was something that was very important to your organization.
Oh, absolutely. So, one of the great things is that we provide a lot of technical assistance, and because of COVID, we've provided it online. And this year, on the first round of PPP, about 2.1 billion went to businesses in Fairfax County. And that was really a welcome relief for our businesses. The key issue, though, is these businesses were usually a little bit larger, 100 plus employees. The ones that were suffering the most and really had a difficult time even applying for PPP, even after we gave them technical assistance, even after we connected them with people at the SBA, even after we connected them with banks, were employers that had 50 employees or less. So the County Board of Supervisors, really led by Chairman McKay, focused on a grant program for the first time in the history of our county, direct grant program to businesses that have 50 employees or less. These businesses, we were able to help over 4,800 of these businesses, working with the Department of Economic Initiatives, led by Rebecca Modry. She did a brilliant job. We reached 4,800 businesses. 72% of these businesses were women, minority, and veteran-owned businesses. that is really delivering what was needed in the place that it was needed. The grants range from 10,000 to 20,000, and they really help these companies adjust to this difficult time. In addition to that, we provided them with technical assistance in how to pursue these markets virtually. We work with Facebook and Snapchat and other platforms to provide technical assistance for free to these companies on how they can use these platforms to either run their businesses or enhance their businesses. A lot of them weren't on electronic pay systems, so a lot of them made that conversion. And also we keep them extraordinarily informed about the public health requirements on distancing, on number of people in restaurants, and all the things that are really kind of the blocking and tackling of business every day.
Are you looking forward, as we've obviously just had one stimulus package? Do you feel like we're going to see another one? And do you feel like that's going to have an impact on these businesses as well?
Oh, we definitely, I do believe that we're definitely going to have another stimulus package. The dimensions of that package, I am not, we're not focusing on that right now. What we're focusing on is the second round that has already been approved. We have businesses right now that we're helping that some have applied before and they're applying again because of the circumstances at the end. And then there were really a number of businesses, a couple of thousand businesses that had not even looked at PPP before because it looked too onerous at the time, but they know that other people were able to get it. So now they're coming in. So we're really focused on what's happening right now. Our hope is, and our belief is that there will be a third package. And we're hoping that that really focuses on the small businesses also.
So I wanted to talk a little bit also about work from home. Obviously, that's a huge question. You mentioned the Microsoft deal. Are you feeling that large local employers are going to start expanding? You mentioned that July 1 thing. Do you feel like we're going to see that return to the office and then that need for more office space gradually increase again? Or do you feel like we're going to see more of the hybrid model that some people are talking about?
So this WFH, it really sounds like a wild word. When somebody said that acronym to me, what are you talking about? The work from home versus the RTO and the return to office. So you have this WFH versus an RTO.
What side are you on, Victor? What side are you on?
The middle. I'm shooting right up the middle. I am. I believe that there's going to be a hybrid. I actually am right up the middle on this issue. I'm married to an architect, so I'm hearing about buildings and interiors all the time. So it's something that I'm always listening to. But and they do surveys, and there's a lot of research out there. But Matt, to answer your question, I am right up the middle, and let me tell you the why. A couple of reasons. These are countervailing forces. There are a group of people, myself included, that would like more flexibility to avoid commute traffic. I'm the CEO of my organization, but I'm there early and I'm there late. If I just had more flexibility of coming in a little late and even staying later, I'd be fine with that because then I'd miss all the peak traffic. So there are a group of people like that really want to be able to flex. Then there's this other group that are still raising kids. I'm an empty nester, but there's still a group that's raising kids. They need some flexibility. Pick up the kid from soccer, drop them off, pick them up from childcare. I remember juggling childcare pickups with my wife when we were in Los Angeles. I worked in Long Beach. She worked in West LA, and we lived in the Valley. Oh. Guys, disaster, okay? Just the disaster definition of. And so I think that we've made it. We see we can be productive like this. We see it very clearly. We can be productive like this. And because we can be productive like this, it's going to really drive, I think, the middle of this, where we're going to see a larger group. I think a larger group is going to work from home all the time. I think instead of 10%, we had 10% of our staff doing it. We probably will end up with about 20%. We've been surveying our staff, talking to them. Some of them have even made official requests. So we're expecting that about 20%. So that's a 100% rise in the number of people that have decided to work from home. By the way, that's good because my offices, I didn't want to have to lease more office space because they're not going to come into the office. I can now give my employees more office space. I had started doubling up people in offices like everyone else. We were working toward the open plan, everybody in the open space. No one wants that right now. I'm sorry, not even with plexiglass shields do I want that. I do not want that. And so you're getting this countervailing need to give each employee more space. And I think that, then I think that there's that other group that is going to go, I don't want to come in on Mondays and Fridays. but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'd like to do, 10 hours, and then, I'd make up the rest in telework. So I think we're going to run ultimately to a hybrid model, but I think net on the space side, it's going to end up where it is right now. But in the interim, between now and then, I do believe that development permits will probably slow down. I do believe that developers are doing this risk analysis of, okay, if I already have something under construction, I'm going to finish it and fill it. But I don't know about starting something new, unless, of course, you're JBG Smith and you got a big giant customer.
Well, no, I appreciate that, Victor. I think that's the big concern, right? Is how big is the work from home trend? But I think you're right, on a net basis, the demand we might be using the same amount of space. It's just that there might be more square footage per employee. I think a lot of commercial office landlords, that's good news, right? Because there's not going to be a loss of space, at least. I'm wondering if we could shift really quickly to housing. I know it's probably not the number one thing you're concerned about, but I know in Northern Virginia, certainly in DC, the need for affordable housing and workforce housing is the demand is so high, yet the supply and inventory is always so low. And it's really hard to incentivize developers to build affordable housing just because it's not as profitable. What's your take on that in your market, but maybe also in the broader country? Like how do we solve this challenge of building more affordable housing?
I'm glad you asked that question because, Deidre was asking a question about, the residential office market, how it's changed. And I really focused on home buyers. This question really deals with renters and affordable buyers, affordable workforce housing, affordable housing, and affordable buyers, which means a lower cost product. Ultimately, the solution is really providing supply. It's just that simple. And I know I'm making it sound simple. The reason why is that when one of my previous careers was I was Secretary of Housing for the state of Maryland. So I ran all the housing programs for the state of Maryland. And I also ran the Mid-Atlantic region for Fannie Mae after that. So I'm very familiar with scaling development and scaling the financing of development. And if you can't scale the permitting and the financing of development, you're not going to get the product. Let me just tell you places that get that done very well. Texas gets it done well all over Texas. You don't hear people screaming about affordable housing in Texas, okay? I think that there's some markets like in North Carolina that do it pretty well. People don't complain about housing in North Carolina. And by the way, Chicago has a huge inventory of affordable housing. Huge. On the South Side, it's one of the largest affordable markets in the country. So it's not that it can't exist. It's just that you have to create the environment for it to exist in. And I think that we have not done that. I think we should just say metro line, metro stations, give them all the density they want, all that they can take. And by the way, give that free to the developers, okay? So that they have I hate to use this phrase, but when you deliver a unit, it's like delivering a lot, okay? And if you can take some of the real estate cost out of that lot, you have reduced the cost of that unit and you make it affordable. That's the kind of exchange that you need. Give them density so they make affordable units. There are these 80-20 deals where it's 80% market rate, 20% workforce and affordable. That's a very conventional, and you get 4% tax credits for that. But that doesn't get down to a lot of the employees that make $60,000, $50,000 a year when they're entry level. And they need a place to live too. So no, it's not our expertise. But what we have been doing is we've been working with our housing authority and our housing and community development department to attract investors to this market that love to do affordable housing. We've brought 5 different developers to this market specifically interested in doing affordable housing. So that's how we contribute to it, but it's not what we do, as you mentioned, Matt.
And do you feel like there needs to be more incentives, or do there need to be zoning changes? What are that you think are going to really, encourage developers to build that kind of housing?
Deidre, I think it varies by jurisdiction. I think that some jurisdictions, their land price is so low that providing any incentive toward the land is not going to be helpful. However, in the District of Columbia, you provide some incentive toward the land. If you're able to take some city land, lease it to a developer for $1 a year for 99 years, you've eliminated the real estate costs, you've made the financer happy, boom, you've changed the return on investment for that, and now you provide affordable housing. So it depends on the market. Now, on the question of the density and the zoning, I think that can be done in almost every market. I think that's something that you can encourage in every market. Minneapolis, a lot of people use Minneapolis as an example, where they just said, no more single family development in the city. That's profound, okay? That is a powerful, powerful motivator for people to do multifamily development. But the question is, are they working on the other side of that? Are they going, okay, so that was the restriction, so what is the promotion for the increased density? I got to be honest with you. I have, I loved working in housing while I was in housing, but it has to be one of the most difficult careers to be in, from the regulatory side and from the developer side. But as you can see, it's something necessary for us to really tackle, not just as a one jurisdiction, but really as a region. And that's what we're trying to do in the DC region, trying to work as a region with all the jurisdictions around the District of Columbia.
Interesting. Yeah, I agree with you about Minneapolis. I've been watching that one too. I think it's going to take some time. We haven't really seen what what that's going to be, partly because COVID came along and kind of stopped that as developers were starting to build their plans there. So I wanted to switch a little bit and talk about Amazon HQ2, because I'm sure you get tons of questions about that. I'm located in Alexandria, so I've seen some of the construction going on. Wondering if the pandemic has changed any of the plans and kind of what the progress is right now.
Okay, before I say anything else, I always say this: Alexandria is heaven. You are in the greatest community. I mean, I've gone down to Motley Fool headquarters down in Alexandria. It's one of the greatest communities in the country. So you're in an incredible place. And you're near HQ too. I mean, hey, what more can you ask for? I have friends that live there. They're so happy that HQ2 has come because their home values have gone up. And one guy said, "You just put my kid through college." So it's a very positive thing. But let's just talk about the office market of HQ2 first. So initially announced 2.5 million square feet. 500,000 square feet is already renovated and made available to Amazon. They've been using that space on a limited basis. There were existing buildings. Some were light renovations and some were heavier renovations, but they are already using those buildings. They're not fully occupied. They're sparsely occupied right now because they have a work from home policy that, basically work from home until this summer. So the WFH is in operations. But the development scenarios there, I think, honestly, are going to be greater. And let me tell you why. They bought a hotel. They're going to tear that hotel down. They now have another development site. Companies like Amazon do not make decisions like that serendipitously. They're thinking long term. They are going to build an incredible presence in this region, not just in Arlington, but also throughout the region. But in Arlington in particular, their first building is under construction right now. The whole, it's moving along. I haven't heard of any hiccups. Last month, we had 3 Amazon executives come and speak to my commission. We have a guest speaker rotation at my commission every month. So in the month of December, we had 3 of them come in. One spoke specifically about HQ2. Up and down, what's going on, how it's been running. The other spoke specifically about the logistics work and the last mile work of Amazon, which I hadn't even thought about. Boom, it's all over the region. They just laid out the plan. It was really, really exciting to see. And the third was talking about the new retail of Amazon in terms of Amazon stores and how they plan on rolling those out. Stores like the Amazon Go, you've probably heard about this one. You walk in, you have your app running, it knows you're in the store, you pick up items, and just as soon as you pick up the item, it registers it. And then on your way out, it does a little calculation on what you bought. If you put things back, they're on there because just as soon as you put it back, it comes off. So this is the kind of, really experiment in more rapid and free and flowing, shopping experiences. They really do. One of the things I love about Amazon and having worked with them is they really focus on the customer experience. And for me, today, if you can really give the customer a delightful experience, a Ritz-Carlton experience. Even if it's just a convenience, I go in and I grab my squishy and my pre-prepared meals, my pre-prepared salad, and I run out. That's what we're all looking for these days. We're looking for a more fluid way of living and having our lives. But Amazon HQ2 is rolling along, and I think it's going to be bigger. They said 25,000 when I was there. Well, they said 25,000 to 37,500 new hires. They are on track. They hired exactly what they said they were, actually more than what they said they were going to hire the first year, which I think was 1,500. They did that. They are on track. They have not come off yet. I know that they are very eager to not just develop in Arlington, but also in Fairfax. We're talking to them about projects. They just finished a big warehouse and distribution center in Fairfax County. Actually, AWS, their sister company, just purchased a big site, a 57-acre site, which may relate to data centers, but we'll see that when it comes. But the bottom line is that Amazon is healthy. It's actually making the entire region healthier.
Well, let's talk a little bit about data centers, because I'm like you. I used to live in Los Angeles and I moved to Northern Virginia. So I'm learning all these things about it. And I didn't know that Northern Virginia is the biggest data center market in the world. So I found that, really, really fascinating. You mentioned AWS. I know some of the other Iron Mountains here, QTS data centers, a bunch of others. Why is Northern Virginia the data center capital?
Yeah, it's amazing. There are 179 data centers right now physically in Northern Virginia, which makes it the center of the world, of course. About 30 of those are in Fairfax County, which is about 16%. The majority of them are in Loudoun County, and then there's about another, 16 to 20% in Prince William County. The reason why, to get right to your question, is this. ARPANET. ARPANET was the precursor of the internet. ARPANET was developed in Arlington County by the Defense Department. ARPANET was what they call a resilient communication system, just in case our satellites got knocked out, or other communications above grade got knocked out. You had this underground network that was redundant and actually covert. Well, when it went public, guess what? They had already built all the infrastructure here. So all the talent was here, the infrastructure here, they continued to build. And I don't know if you remember the telecom boom. The telecom boom put more pipes in the ground, and it was to get data to move over phones faster. All of that contributed to making this the center of all internet traffic of the world. I understand that roughly 70% of all the internet traffic of the world flows through here. And trust me, we are all very happy that it does, because look at this connection right now. You can't get this connection in Pocono, Indiana. It just doesn't happen. So we're very fortunate to be able to take advantage of that resilience.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll just mention, I used to live in DC. I live out in Middleburg, Virginia now. And when I drive out here from DC, I feel like I am driving through Silicon Valley, through part of it, because you're just down this corridor and there are just these buildings and tech companies and data centers, I presume, just, hugging the highways. I mean, it just feels like one is going up every day. I mean, it's tremendous.
And of course, the cloud computing, part of it, which the data centers are now the host of, really was accelerated by COVID. COVID has really pushed us to levels. I mean, I went from like basically no Wi-Fi at home to 1 gig. I mean, I never thought I'd use a gig a second. What is that all about? I mean, who needs to move that much data? But when you're doing this, and then your wife is doing it, you're streaming, everybody's streaming, and you have your phones on and they're running, and you have all of this equipment running, it's exploded the industry. And there are plans out there for, I think, another 30 or 40 of these centers. So it's not going to stop for a while.
Well, I also wanted to ask you about education, because I know that's one of the reasons that Amazon was interested in HQ2 was Virginia Tech's Digital Innovation Campus. So how does education play into some of your plans?
So education is so critical, Deidre, with the need for talent is extraordinary. I'm not going to dig too deep into, but I would just, in a word, it's extraordinary. Not just for Amazon, but for all these tech companies, whether they're in cloud computing, or they're in data analytics or data science or robotics or drone or autonomous vehicles. It doesn't matter. They're all looking for talent. And we have to provide that talent. in a consistent way. And that means building a pipeline. We will double the number of technical engineers that will be coming out of the Virginia schools in the next 10 years, next 10 to 12 years. Why? Because we want these companies to be here. We want them to stay here. We also have the wonderful University of Maryland College Park across across DC, across the river, and then to DC, over in Prince George's County, that graduates a ton of engineers. And we're trying to be more closely connected with them. As a matter of fact, they have put a campus on this side of the river, not too far from HQ2. So you're seeing this converging and understanding that without the brains, you don't have the innovation. Without the brains, you don't have the growth. So we have to really make sure that the talent comes here. We have an entire talent initiative. Just as an example, one example, on the 28th, we have 27 cybersecurity companies ranging from Leidos to AWS, all focused on cybersecurity. They have 4,000 open positions. We have over 1,000 people registered for this. We provide this service free to the employees, the potential employees, and free to the companies. And the reason why is that we want the companies to hire and we want people to be hired. By the way, we don't just market that within this region. We are marketing to New York, to Boston, Cambridge, to Silicon Valley, and to Austin, Texas, and LA. These are the markets that we're going after. Wow. And we went from 300 hits a month on our website to 20,000 a month. And we're soon we have a plan in the next 6 months to get to 50,000 a month. You know, we really want to jam on this, because that will become our communication channel for talent, whether it's retention of talent or retraining of talent. We do these these virtual career fairs also for retraining and retooling. Like, Deidre, you're probably not a programmer. I saw your background, incredible writer, gifted. Now, coding is not very different from writing. You can be trained as a coder, and they know that. But if you wanted to be one, where would you go? We're creating places where you can go. You can go to our website right now, workinnorthernvirginia.com, and you can find all those places where you could be retrained if that's what you were interested in. So we're really trying to provide the tools for the existing workforce, for the workforce that is outside of here, coming here, and the workforce that's educated here to stay here.
Deidre, it's not too late for either of us. We can do it. Get rid of this writing gig that we've been doing.
Right?
Developers, let's do it.
Whole new world just opened up for me.
I know.
All right. So I know we're keeping you a little past time, but wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about the future here. I mean, obviously, you mentioned we're going through this transition year. Nobody's expecting 2021 to be, a massive blockbuster year. I think everyone's more excited about 2022, 2023. What are you seeing? What are you looking forward to even 5 years from now? What's the future kind of look like?
I've been asked that question before, and it is one of those questions that I do ponder. I try to have a North Star whenever I'm working anywhere, and I had a North Star for Arlington County, and even when I worked in DC, I had a North Star for DC. I wanted to create a higher bond rating for them, get them the AAA bond rating, and we did that. I wanted to get them the surplus budgets, and we did that. And it went on for 5-6 years after I left. I wanted to bring prosperity back to Arlington. They had lost 34,000 employees. I did that. So let me just tell you what I want now. It's not just for Fairfax. It's actually for the entire region. What I would like for this entire region, I want it to be the center of innovation of the world. I want to compete with Shenzhen. I want to compete with Beijing. I want to compete with Bangalore, with Seoul, with Tokyo, with Taiwan. Look, I've been to those places. They got game, okay? They got game. These guys, they are not playing. They are ready to eat our lunch. If we're not going to eat it, they're going to eat it for us. And we really need to think regionally. We really need to think it's a unified region. Think about this: 6 million people in this region, 3 million residents, 3 million in the workforce rather. So you have 6 million people living here, 3 million in the workforce. You have 64 educational institutions cranking out roughly 100,000 degree candidates every year. What's wrong with that? We have a half a trillion plus economy. We are just ahead of Silicon Valley in our economy, the size of our economy. We're number 5. It's unbelievable what this region is. But we don't think that way. We think Arlington, we think DC, we think, Fairfax. Stop it. Look, If this region is successful, Fairfax will get its piece. If this region is successful, DC will get its piece. We have to do this as a region. So my vision is that we become the innovation center of the world. And I think we can do that. And that doesn't mean anything but that when you think of innovation globally, you think of coming here to grow your business. You think of coming here to design your product. You think of coming here to transform your company. I mean, I want the people to come here and go, I can transform my company if I hit that market, if I get to that market. You know, I was one of those kids that, you know, there wasn't a real high probability that I even that I would go to college. I just didn't have the social circumstance, let's call it. We grew up with very minimal means, and no one had been to college in my family before my generation. And so for me, I've always been able to set goals related to things that haven't been achieved before. That's why I do it, because it's worked before. Why shouldn't it work now? And I do believe that this region right now may be not so united, but it's more united now than it was pre-COVID. We have the Northern Virginia Alliance of 10 jurisdictions in Northern Virginia. We have the Maryland Alliance, which is 6 jurisdictions in Maryland. And we have DC, and we're all now talking. All 17 jurisdictions are talking. How can we work together? How can we provide prosperity for our people? How can we provide equitable prosperity for our people? How do we do that? That is what we're talking about now. So we're developing a strategy together. So 5 years from now, my vision is that strategy is in place, and we're up there, you know, boxing above our weight, as they say.
Interesting. So do you see your competition as Silicon Valley, or do you see your competition, do you see it's us versus China?
Well, you know, it's interesting. That's a great question on a couple of levels. One, culturally, China is very different from us. I started traveling to China in 1995 and opened an office for the state of Maryland. It was the first state office in China. And then later on, I opened an office for the District of Columbia in 2012. I've been to China many, many times. And the culture is so different from our culture. I don't think it's an apples to apples comparison. I've been to Japan repeatedly. Again, I don't think it's apples to apples. I've been to Germany. I've been to France. I've been to England so many times. You cannot just compare apples to apples. So I don't think it's versus anybody. I just think this is what I do know. I do know that there are companies that want to be there that I would like to be here. There are companies that are here that are thinking about going there. So I want the companies that are here to be convinced to stay here unless there is market opportunity for them there. I want the companies that are there to come here if there's market opportunity for them to be here. What I want to be is a place in an environment where a company can prosper no matter what it's looking for. If we can do that, if we can do that together, I don't really look at any particular geography as my competition, but people say it because it comes up. I always like to say this. Okay, so we have one company looking for an R&D location right now, and they're looking at 5 different markets, and they're the usual suspects: us, Silicon Valley, Austin, Texas, Boston, Cambridge, North Carolina Triangle. Okay, fine. All right. Is that our competition? Yeah, for that particular company, yes. But look what Amazon did. Amazon said, we'll be anywhere. They looked at 238 jurisdictions. See, that's how I think that choices can be made by these companies, broader choices, that they can be almost anywhere now. So how do I make my place the most attractive as I can, given my comparative advantages? You know, my comparative advantages, whether that's lower cost housing, less expensive education, shorter commute, nice urban environments. I got to tell you something. I love DC because it has so many museums that are free. I mean,
Yes.
hey.
I love that too.
Yeah, it's a great thing. So that's a comparative advantage. You don't have, 22 Smithsonian museums in Chicago, New York, San Francisco, Boston, Cambridge, North Carolina, Chapel Hill. We got Austin, Texas. You just don't have it. So there's an advantage here that you don't have anywhere else. Look at this. I used to tell my boss this when I was in DC, worked for the mayor. I used to say this. I used to say, you have something that no one else has in the world. He said, what's that? I said, 186 countries that are actually here. You can reach 186 countries in an Uber. You can't do that anyplace else in the world. There's no place on the planet you can do that. And that's how I kind of look at competition, not me versus them, but me creating the greatest advantage for the companies that I would like to come to me on a comparative basis.
It's great points.
I'm sold.
No, it's so great because I think about, and this is me thinking about my finance courses back at university, but there was the whole competitive advantage versus comparative advantage, and competitive advantage, Northern Virginia might not be able to compete on price or wages or things like that, but there are comparative things. There are things that are unique to the region that, and you mentioned a bunch of them, that other jurisdictions don't have. And so the best we can do is leverage those for the companies. And so they know if they have a presence here, even if it's not their full presence, but they have a presence here, at least they can take advantage of those things that they can't get anywhere else. It's such a great point. So, I just wish, and it's hard. It's hard to have a conversation with you, Victor, and not thinking about the other jurisdictions that lost out on HQ2. And of course, we can think of one prominent one. I won't mention it, but their approach to welcoming a company like that versus your approach and others' approaches in Northern Virginia, and it's such a contrast. And I'm going to say it. I am so grateful to live in Virginia and be a part of a state and a business environment that favors those kinds of things and sees the bigger picture and the long-term picture. I'll step off the soapbox, but it's appreciated.
No, really, both Deidre and Matt, both of you guys are in spectacular communities that really provide incredible value for the people that live there. I think of the educational system in Fairfax County and Alexandria and Arlington. It's amazing. I wish I could have gone to high school in those jurisdictions. I probably would have done more. I mean, it really is amazing. So to me, that is the beauty of the work that you have done, on the private side, but how and the taxes that you've paid, and what we try to do on the public side to support that expansion.
Well, I wanted to ask you also, we write for Millionacres, which is Motley Fool's real estate investing website. Do you have any advice or insights for small-time real estate investors who might be interested in Fairfax County and in Northern Virginia in general?
Yeah, I'm one of those people that always go to where the people, aren't, because there was this book called Blue Ocean Strategy. I don't know if any of you have read that book, but it's all about pursuing blue ocean away from the red ocean where all the sharks are, and they start attacking one another. You basically go after where no one is. And the best advice I can give is look at the markets that are not favored. Those are the real opportunities. Yes, they're harder to do, but that's where the return is. The return are in the markets where there's opportunity for making things better. I remember my first real estate investment. I was a young professional. I bought a house. I renovated with two of my friends. I had it as a rental property for a couple of years. And then when I got married, my wife said, "Sell it. Take the equity. Let's pay off some bills and let's start all over again." And it was, but the lesson was going to a difficult market was where the biggest opportunity was. We got a 50% upside in 2 years. And that was because it was a very difficult market. Think of the markets that you're in right now. That's where the opportunities are. They aren't in Tyson's. That one's gone. That's not an opportunity. That one's already over. But on the other side of the highway, Richmond Highway, they might have it over there. Richmond Highway Corridor, another one. I mean, there are places all over the county. Actually, they've designated them as economic development incentive zones. They're actually a map that shows those locations. That's where all the opportunity is in the county right now. And the county will even give you tax incentives to do work there. So that to me is like, it doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to read a couple of just comments that we got coming in. Big fan of the Fool. Steve says, what a good competitive moat for the DMV area. Everything you mentioned was. And we've also got a comment from Ashley who says, "Hello from your neighbor in Leesburg, Loudoun County. We have data centers popping up and new families moving into town all the time. Residential real estate in Loudoun is booming, and thank you for all of your amazing work and drive. I love that it's becoming a center for innovation and technology."
Great. That's fantastic. It's very kind of them. Well, you guys need to know this. I am a huge fan of Motley Fool. I have followed Motley Fool for years. I'm a subscriber. I got to tell you, I've learned so much and earned so much from the knowledge that Motley Fool has shared, and I appreciate it. I cannot think now CNBC and Bloomberg are two other channels that I that I tune into. But Motley, for advice, invaluable. Invaluable. I appreciate you. Really, you guys do a great job.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for your time today.
Oh, my pleasure. I really enjoyed it. And you guys have a fantastic day. Listen, stay safe, get your vaccination, and get back to regular life. All right, guys, take care.
Thank you, Victor.
All right, thank you.
Really appreciate your time.